Hi, I am Jan Erka, the creator of Urantiapedia. In this video, we are going to learn how to do the second of the tasks in the roadmap for the first milestone of Urantiapedia. This task is the addition of the topic index. We are going to do this in a very simple way, just using a text editor. So there aren't any special requirements or skills for anyone that wants to contribute in this task. This video is going to be part of a series of video tutorials about how to collaborate in a basic way in the Urantiapedia. In other videos, we will be exploring other advanced ways to contribute. The main points we are going to learn here are these. What is the topic index? Where are topic index files? What is the format of the topic index files? Editing files in a text editor, and finally sending changes to maintainers. So let's go with it. What is the topic index? And the topic index is one of the main contents that Urantiapedia will have for its first milestone. It is a collection of more than 4,000 topics extracted from the Urantia book. At any moment, you can see how the content of the topic index is changing in Urantiapedia webpage, going to the main page, and there clicking in the link to the list of all the topics. It is a long list, so be patient while it loads. The list is ordered alphabetically. The topics that have been reviewed appear with a diamond icon. The topic index has been created using an existing index created by the Urantia Fellowship for the Urantia book. This index, however, is very short in the text it contains, so to use this index as a guide for the creation of Urantiapedia topics, we need to rewrite the text in the Fellowship index. The rewriting for the topic index is done by the maintainers of the project for the English and Spanish languages. When a topic is written again, then we add a OK tag that means that the topic is correct, is reviewed. So the work for anyone who wants to collaborate in this task is this. If you are going to help in English or Spanish languages, your job will be to proofread the current topics that are already reviewed. If you're going to help in other languages, your job will be to translate the names and the texts in the topics that are already reviewed. But a pair of side notes here. Translation is preferable to be done from English version. And second note, currently not all the topics in English and Spanish are reviewed. This is a work in progress, and it is expected that the revision will end in Q2 of 2022 of this year. So now let's explain how to do these tasks. Where are topic index files? As explained in the previous video tutorial, all the content for the Urantiapedia project is available in a public project in GitHub. This is the URL. Check that tutorial to know how to download the project or only needed files. The files required for topic index are located here. Input folder, txt subfolder, and a subfolder called topic index the code of the language. If you're going to work in a language that is not English or Spanish and that is not currently present in the project, you will need to copy the version in English that is here. Input folder, txt subfolder, and topic index n subfolder, and paste it in the same parent folder but renaming the new folder to the required language. For example, for friends, we need a folder like this: input folder, txt subfolder, and a topic index fr subfolder. Before creating a new folder, check if there are not currently any translations of the topic index for the given language. So now let's see the content of the topic index files. Format of topic index files. Here we have the folder with the topic index in English opened in Visual Studio Code. We have explained how to use this text editor in a previous video tutorial. The folder contains a file for each letter of the alphabet: a.txt, b.txt, etc., plus an _.txt file that contains the entries that start with a numeric digit. The order of the topics is always English-based, so each file contains the topics whose initial letter in English matches that letter. For example, the Spanish topic Espíritu Infinito must be found in i.txt file because the English topic begins with I, infinite spirit, and not with E. This applies to all languages. This way, all the files, no matter the language, will contain the same text in the same lines. Here is an excerpt of the file a.txt. Its file consists of a header that explains the content, lines begin with less than symbol. These lines are ignored when the file is processed. Next, a list of topics. Each topic is preceded by a blank line and contains several lines. The first line is a sort table with topic description and the values or cells separated by vertical bar. The values are these. The first is the topic name. If one or more names separated by semicolon appear after the name, those names are aliases that will be searched in the text of the Urantia book as an alternative form to topic name. The first name will always be the one used as title of the page in Urantiapedia. The rest of the names separated by semicolon will be the names or aliases that added to the first will be searched within the Urantia book to create links to these topics. The next value are global references to the Urantia book for the topic. This value can be empty. These links will be displayed on Urantiapedia in the References section. The next value are links to other topics. This value can be empty. Represents one or more topics that are related to current topic. They will appear on Urantiapedia in the Links section. If more than one link exists, they will be separated by semicolon. It is possible to add links to specific sections inside a topic using colon. For example, baptism, Jesus baptism, is a link that points to the topic page baptism and inside it to section about Jesus baptism. Next value is a topic category. This value can be empty. There are 5 categories right now: persons, person, places, place, orders or beings, order, religions, religion, and races, race. These categories are converted to tags in Urantiapedia. Probably in the future we will be adding more categories. Finally, we have a last value, status. It can be empty or say OK when the topic has been reviewed by maintainers of the project. Ignore any topic that has not the OK value. The following lines below the first, if they exist, are the topic content. If the topic has no extra lines, then it is just a redirection. Extra lines are also short tables that may or may not have values separated by a vertical bar. There are two types of tables. A table of a single cell without vertical bar. It will contain a text, the text of a line of the page of Urantiapedia, and after the text, enclosed by parentheses, if they exist, one or more references to the paragraphs of the Urantia book. There is another type of table with two cells separated by vertical bar. The first cell will have the same content than a table with a single cell, and the second value in the table will be a list of links to other topics separated by semicolon. Finally, we can have some optional lines at the end of the topics. These lines start with greater than symbol. These will be links to other web pages, for example, Wikipedia, and will appear on Urantiapedia in an external links section. It is important to know that contributors only should change the text in the topic lines, but contributors must not change any of the following. The topics that are not reviewed and that do not have the OK mark. They must be left untouched. Perhaps there is still work needed on them. Until a topic is not reviewed by maintainers of the project, no work must be done in them. The global references or the category in the first line in the topic mustn't be changed. The references to Urantia book or references to other topics that appear in the lines in the topics mustn't be changed also. Finally, contributors shouldn't change the order of the lines. If you find any error in the previous content, please take a note in another place and send these errors you find apart from topic files. The only content that contributors must change is this: the name or aliases found in the first line of topics, if your working language is not English or Spanish. English and Spanish names are already reviewed. Another thing that contributors must change is the text inside each line of topics. Nothing else. And finally, the URLs to pages in Wikipedia that can be at the bottom of each topic. These are the three only things that a contributor needs to change. The construction rules for each line in topics other than the first line are these. They do not need to start with a capital letter or end with period. Our tools will automatically capitalize and end with period each sentence when converting files to Urantiapedia format. The text of each line can be a single sentence or several. If there are several, then intermediate periods or uppercase letters must appear because only start and end of the lines are fixed. The text of each line must not contain parentheses because these characters are reserved for Urantia book references. Please replace parentheses with commas. This is a current limitation of this task, and it is important to avoid later errors when creating the pages. Each line can have tabulation charts at the beginning. Each tabulation chart indicates that those lines will be contained within the one immediately above without that tab, which will act as a section or subsection title header. You, as contributor, must leave these tabulation charts as you find them. Do not change them. Lines can start with asterisk or hash sign, or a mix of them, to make a numbered and mixed lists. Again, these must be left as they are. Do not change these charts. Here is an example excerpt of a topic from the file 8.txt. If we look at it, we can see the following important things. It is the content related to the topic Apostles of Jesus. Go to this page to see the result of this text when converted to Urantiapedia. At the bottom of the resulting page, an indication is added saying "See also," followed by the references found in header of the topic. Notice that in the header of the topic, it has a link to apostleship, and also the lines with the list of apostles has a vertical bar and links to topics or to the apostles. These links appear in the links section added at the end of the page. The type of topic is relative to persons, so it says person. In this case, is the Apostles of Jesus. This appears as a tag person added to the topic. These tags are useful for searching. Notice also that the OK mark is present, which means that this topic has been reviewed for English. Check that to make an ordered list, the lines must start with asterisk. Notice also that many lines do not start uppercase or end with points. That is fixed when creating the page. The topic will create a section called Organization because below that line, next lines have a tab chart at the beginning. A line like their names, colon, is a line with a single cell and contains no references. A line like Philip was the apostolic steward is a line with a single cell and contains one reference and uses a parenthesis for this reference. A line like many were martyred, vertical bar martyrs, is a line with two cells. So the text is many were martyred, but the second cell, martyrs, are the links to other topics. To use more topics, they can be separated by semicolon. For example, these. Many were martyred, vertical bar, martyrs, semicolon, Simon Peter. A line like Matthew was a fundraiser, vertical bar, Matthew Levy, that is not in the example, but we are present here for completeness, will be a line with two cells, in which the first cell is Matthew was a fundraiser, and the second cell is a link, Matthew Levy. Notice that external links to a topic are added at the end of the topic and use the character greater than at the beginning of each line. The example above shows how to link to English Wikipedia about apostles. You can add multiple links, each in one line, as long as they start with the character greater than and follow a blank space before the URL. Important. In the text of a line, parentheses must be avoided because they are reserved only for defining references to the Urantia book. If you need to say something in parentheses, change the text to one that uses commas instead of parentheses for separation. of the text. Editing files in a text editor. For editing the topic index files, open them in Visual Studio Code as explained. Now you need to focus on two types of tasks depending on the language. For English and Spanish versions of the topic index, the task is just proofread the content in the texts. For other languages, the task is to translate the texts. We should have created a copy in English or other language available if we prefer, and now translate the texts as fast as possible. For the first task, you just need to read and make the needed changes in the topic lines. That is all the job. So it's quite easy. Any other error or improvement that you see that can be added to the text file, then add it to another text file and send that notes apart. For example, here we can see the previous line, many were martyred, but it has a grammatical error and says many was martyred. So we can change the word with the error and fix it. The same work must be done with all the lines. Be aware when doing proofreading that many lines has been extracted directly from Durantia book, and the words used are what they are because we want to maintain quotes or information as close as possible to the Urantia book. Try to avoid saying things on your own when that is the case, when their words are being extracted from the Urantia book. For the second task, so translating the text, we can do it easily using Google Translator. For this, copy some of the lines in the topic so you don't be above of the limit allowed by Google Translator, and then click on Translate and paste it back to the file. It is important to check that when the text is translated is copied, it maintains the references and the blank spaces correctly, because usually Google Translator or other tools available for doing translations do not deal well with that extra charge and remove them or add new unwanted charge. Once you have the automatic translation in place and correctly with all the blank spaces, proofread the translation and fix any errors. Also ensure that if the text in the original language contains a literal text from the Urantia book, the translation also maintains the translated text from Urantia book translation. For example, in the previous line, Philip was the apostolic steward. The word steward is the one used in the Urantia book for the role of the Apostle Philip. In the translated version in French, this word has been translated to intendant. We must ensure that we use that word no matter what translation Google Translator offers to us. So we need to keep the words from the Urantia book as close as possible in our topic index texts. Now, remember to use the same rule for the names and the aliases that are in the header of each topic. Use only available words in the Urantia book. If you do not use the same words, then the links inside Urantiapedia will not be correctly created. And that is it. That is all the work needed to make contributions to the topic index. Do not forget to save your work frequently. How to send changes to maintainers. Collaboration through GitHub has the advantage that anything can be done easily through the GitHub web. But for now, to make the addition really simple to anyone that wants to contribute, you can send the files you have edited, just sending them in an email to any of the maintainers of the project. If you have been in contact with any of the maintainers, me or others, you can send directly your work to us. Then it is really easy for us to update the Urantiapedia website with the new content. You will be notified when the changes are made available in the web. That usually takes no more than an hour. So you can check your changes and check that have been updated correctly. So that is all for me in this new task in the project. I hope this tutorial has been helpful to you, and stay tuned for next tutorials. Thanks for your attention. See you. Bye.